Over the last several episodes, we've been talking about why your team isn't prospecting consistently, why the accountability conversations you've been having aren't working, and why you keep on doing the sales management work that shouldn't be yours to do. If any of that rang true, you probably already know what the problem is. What you might not have yet is an answer to what to do about it, particularly if you don't have the time to fix it yourself and hiring a full-time sales manager isn't realistic in your business right now. That's what we're talking about in today's episode. This is episode 279 of Commercial Real Estate Leadership. My name is Darren Krakowiak. I help commercial real estate principals to build an agency that can run without them so they have the choice to work on or off the tools. And I want to tell you about something I've noticed. The commercial real estate principals who understand the problem best are not necessarily the ones who solve it the fastest. Knowing that your team isn't prospecting because they don't feel the urgency, knowing that the pipeline dependency loop is running in your business doesn't automatically fix it. Understanding why your agents aren't hitting their numbers doesn't produce the weekly rhythm, the skills building, or the external pressure that actually changes their behavior. The gap between knowing and fixing is real, and for most commercial real estate principals, it comes down to one thing: time. The principal understands what needs to happen. They just don't have the hours in the week to make it happen consistently. Not when they're running the business, looking after important client relationships, trying to do their own deals, and managing everything else that's on their plate. Sales management is not a once a month conversation. It's a weekly rhythm. It's consistent accountability. It's consistent skills development. It's consistent prospecting support. And for most principals of small to medium-sized commercial real estate agencies, delivering that themselves week after week is simply not possible alongside everything else that's already on their plate. There's a second reason why the problem persists beyond time, and it connects to something we talked about in episode 275. When the accountability comes from you, when it's the principal telling the team to prospect, the principal who's tracking the call numbers, the principal who's having the performance conversation, the team has usually already learnt how to absorb it. This doesn't mean they're deliberately resistant. It's just that they're in a business where the principal has always been the one who's holding them accountable, and they've developed over time just a bit of tolerance to it. They know the rhythms. They know what happens if they miss a week. They know how far they can push before anything really changes. External accountability, on the other hand, lands differently. When the expectation is coming from someone outside the business, someone with proper commercial real estate credibility, not involved in internal politics, and no real prior relationship that the agent can leverage or manage, it carries a different weight. You can't dismiss the outside voice the same as you can quietly work around an internal one. And when there's proper attendance tracking, actual records of who showed up and who didn't, practical follow-up mechanisms when someone goes missing, that changes the dynamic in a way that internal accountability often can't. Look, this isn't a criticism of how commercial real estate principals are managing their teams. It's just the reality of how internal versus external authority works. The same agents who have learnt to coast on internal accountability often respond very differently when a credible outside voice is involved. So what does it actually look like when this is done well? The agents are in a weekly rhythm, not a once in a quarter or half yearly training day, a genuine weekly cadence, pipeline tracking, skills development, mindset sessions, prospecting power hours that run whether or not the principal is across it that week. The accountability exists even when the principal is flat out on a deal, when they're traveling, or dealing with something else in the business. The training is specific to commercial real estate, not generic sales frameworks or residential real estate concepts that had to be adapted and still don't quite fit. Material built for the way commercial real estate works in practice in Australia. The longer transaction cycles, the relationship-driven nature of the market, the difference between sales and leasing based on the office, retail, and industrial sectors, and how to manage that pipeline. And the principal gets out of the loop. Not entirely. They still stay across what's happening. They see attendance reports. They know which agents are engaging and which ones aren't, but they're not the one who's running the weekly session. They're not the one monitoring whether an agent went missing. They're not the one who's doing the skills coaching. That work is happening consistently without it being another task for the principal to handle. For a commercial real estate principal who's been trying to carry the sales management function themselves, often imperfectly, and always at a cost to other things they need to be doing, that is an important shift. Now, the practical question is always, is this worth the investment? So let's be straightforward about what the numbers are. If you've got 2 agents in a program like this at $250 per agent per month, then you're spending $6,000 a year on both of them. If each of them increases their GCI by $50,000 each over the year, which is half of what we typically see, and your split, the split for the business of what they write is 50%, that's $25,000 in additional profit per agent against the $3,000 invested per agent. That's more than an 8-to-1 return. And I'm not making an aggressive projection here. I think it's a pretty conservative one, and it doesn't account for all the time that you get back from not carrying the sales management burden yourself, or for the compounding effect of agents who are now building a pipeline through habit rather than just spiking and then dropping off. So the question here isn't really whether the investment is justified. If the agents improve, it pays for itself. The real question is whether you believe the structure will lead to a change in their behavior. And that's what the accountability architecture exists to do. Not to hope the agents engage, but to track it, to follow it when they don't, and to create a rhythm that they can't easily drift away from. If you've been listening to this podcast for a while and the last few episodes have described your business accurately, a team that isn't prospecting consistently, accountability that isn't sticking, sales management work that keeps landing on your desk, I want to tell you something about what I've built specifically for this situation. It's called Sales Management as a Service. It's a program where I work directly with your sales and leasing agents, weekly sessions, also modules delivered to their inbox, commercial real estate specific training, real accountability with attendance tracking and following up on their goals. So the sales management function in your business is running consistently without it being your job to do. If you'd like to find out whether this is the right fit for your team, send me a message on LinkedIn, Darren Krakowiak. You'll find me in the show notes. And just tell me how many agents that you have and what the main performance challenge is right now. I'll get back to you personally. That is our episode for today. Thank you so much for listening, and I will speak to you soon.